rest, no pain, no more parting over there. And forever I will be with the one who died for me. What a day, glorious day that will be, when my Jesus I shall see. When I look upon his face, the one who saved me by his grace. When he takes me by the hand and leads me through the promised land. What a day, glorious day that will be. Once a Savior went away to prepare a place to stay. He is coming back someday to take his waiting bride away. And forever we will be with the one who died for me. What a day, glorious day that will be. What a day that will be, when my Jesus I shall see. When I look upon his face, the one who saved me by his grace. When he takes me by the hand and leads me through the promised land. What a day, glorious day that will be. What a day, glorious day that will be.
So before I play this song, I'd like to say something. I'd obviously like to thank our friends at Country Rebel for being so kind to us and accepting us into the family and putting our music out there for a much broader audience than we've ever had before they came along. I want to dedicate this song to my friend Randy Weaver.
So the song I'm about to play is called Come Jesus Come. And gun and stock up on. I just wanted to be better at it. And then overnight it went, like viral, whatever. Now, God, there's no more sun, you're the light. It's you. Oh,
Good morning. Has anybody thank God for the sunshine yet today? Well, we know the sun's always shining, but it's good to see it when we can. You're right. You're right. Yeah, that's what I wanted. Good. Gary Caldwell was already wondering, where is Gary? Well, I can pretty well tell you where Gary is. I got an idea. He's down there at the fellowship hall working. I say Sharon Lorraine has him going at it all kinds of different ways. In fact, it was to the point that he knew he was going to be so busy, he relented and asked me to teach. So that's how bad it is, folks. But seriously, he did ask me to teach because he did know he was going to be busy and all with everything that's going on today down there. Anybody have a testimony this morning? Good, Gary. Good also, Gail. Yes. It's just not the same, is it? Yes. Although we do welcome everybody that tunes in online. Butch said the same thing last week. I'll get to that in a minute or two. Okay. All right. But we do have a lot to be thankful for. Gail, I mentioned the same thing. I thank the Lord for waking me up this morning. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And you don't have the words. Yes. It's good to have you and Gordy back with us. Gail has been fighting for how long, Gail? Longer than you want to? Yeah. No. Yeah. There are so many things that are going around, I think, and that we are attributing to sinuses or to allergies and to everything, and some of them may be. But I think you're right, Gail. There is some other things going on. Let's see. Birthdays. Anybody have a birthday this week? No? Wow. We're all the same age as we was last week. That's pretty cool. That's really good. Yeah. This week's lesson is on the wisdom of patience. And it's an interesting lesson on how we keep on moving on. Prayer request. that's good. Yeah, yeah. Mike, how's Melanie? Yeah, yeah. Heard that Wednesday evening, or Sunday evening, actually. Yeah. How are you, Becky? Okay. Okay, in the way of prayer requests that I'm aware of, I talked with Butch yesterday evening on the phone, and of course we know he had a stroke and is having problems, major problems with his left side movement. We know that, but this past week he has been sick and has not eaten anything hardly whatsoever in a week. He is on. They did put him on IV, but he's very weak. He is going in and out of AFib, and so we need to especially remember Butch in prayer this right now and in the coming days. Do not, as Senior said before, every time try to remember Butch and also remember Karen and Brandon and Caleb and the whole family there too. This is a lot this is not what they had in mind, with retirement, and they were wanting to sell their home and different things and kind of progress along. This is not what they had planned in their life. So remember them in prayer if you would also. Any others? There you are. Yeah. That's Mark. Go ahead. I'll get to him in a minute. I'm just kidding. Mm-hmm. 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 Questions are good. Yeah, questions are good. My brother Mark, yes, had surgery Thursday on his rotator. I think he said he had 3 complete tears in his shoulder, so they repaired that and all. And I talked with him on the phone briefly Friday, and he sounded good. Some of his texts were a little different between his block that they had whenever he give him, and then he told me he had plenty of backup also for the pain. But remember him in prayer. This is the first surgery that I can really remember him having. Oh, and he's an older guy, and so let's continue to pray for him that he'll recover, because it is his left shoulder, which he is left-handed, and so he's been trying to train his right hand to do things here in preparation for the surgery and everything that's coming up. But remember him in prayer. See, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Today should probably be maybe his worst day pain-wise. About right, Mary Ellen? 3rd day usually, and beyond. So, yeah, that's not good. Yeah, Mary Ellen, had the same thing 6 short weeks ago. Oh, okay. Jackie Barker's sister-in-law. Okay. Which is bigger, our need or God's strength? That just came to me. Which is bigger? All these needs. And you know how sometimes we get overwhelmed? Car won't start, washer's broke, grass needs cut, dishes need done, yada, yada, yada. And sometimes we have a problem at work, we don't have a job, we want a job, we don't have health, we want health. And sometimes we we get so totally overwhelmed that we cannot focus on God. So let's remember each other in that. It's so easy to be overwhelmed. David Huffman, I'm going to ask you to take the Lord in prayer this morning. Amen. I'm going to get a quick little drink of water. If you would, turn in your hymnals to 468. 468. This is an upbeat song, and as we get into the lesson, it'll make a even little more sense to you. And we'll sing the first two verses on this, and now listen, y'all need to sing out too. And I know some of you can, some of you don't want to, but you will anyway. And so we want you to see if I have any ones.
I'll take 10.
I have no ones. Boy, she's easy to please, huh? No need. Yeah. All right. So this is our song for the morning, and we will get this going. I have decided to follow Jesus. I have decided to follow Jesus. I have decided to follow Jesus. No turning back, no turning back. The world behind me, the cross before me. The world behind me, the cross before me. The world behind me, the cross before me. No turning back, no turning back. Let's go ahead and do the third verse. Though none go with me, still I will follow. Though none go with me, still I will follow. Though none go with me, still I will follow. No turning back, no turning back. Well, we might as well do the fourth verse too. Will you decide now to follow Jesus? Will you decide now to follow Jesus? Will you decide now to follow Jesus? No turning back, no turning back. All right. And as we get into this lesson, that song will be a little more, make a little more sense. We do not have any other of this quarterly's quarterlies to pass out. We have next quarters, but they won't do you a bit of good today. So we're not going to hand those out quite yet. But we are in James chapter 5, verses 7 through 12. And the wisdom of patience. How patient are you? It depends on the situation. Sometimes it's easy and sometimes it's not. I could ask the couples that are here, hey, which one of you two are the most patient? Without starting a war. Yeah, yeah. So, Bill? No. Which one's more patient? She is? Okay, Al? Sometimes Al is. Sometimes Jackie is. Janet, I know you're more patient than David. Huh? Really? Wow. They won't even comment. He's getting a mint and keeping his head down. Imagine that. Mick, Brenda, who's more patient? You are? Huh? He is really? Yeah. Okay. This is a great lesson. We need to move right along. She's not here yet, but she will be. She's down below. Oh. Huh? Praying. Well, she's looking for more. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. At times, I'll tell you what. Seriously, we are both at times, as Al said, we are more patient at times than others. Each of us are, and yeah, that's how it goes. That's for sure. But today's lesson is not just on patience, which was kind of interesting. We're talking about perseverance also. And let me just start this overview out here. And think about this. We have people in our church that are very persevering. And we'll get into that here in a little bit on can you persevere without patience? And but we'll get into that. But think about it. There's a couple I jotted down that I always thought are and was very patient and persevered. James puts the teachings of this passage in the context of waiting for Christ's second coming. He indicated that as we wait, we must conduct ourselves in such ways that our witness will be strengthened and not weakened. Our attitudes and actions must support our words. This life will have its ups and downs, its problems and prospects, its battles and blessings. However, the child of God experiences it all and comes out victorious in the end. Is there anybody that, when I mentioned that there's people that have been in our church and maybe currently are in our church that persevere, that did persevere or are currently persevering? Anybody pop into your head that you'd like to bring out? Bud was one of them. And I could not, and I feel so terrible. Whenever we talked about the second coming, was it probably today or maybe today? Probably today. And then what would he do? Yeah. He's listening for the trumpet. Yes. Yes. Bud was one I thought of. I'll tell you one that we have in our church right now, not right this second. Charles Dunn. When you see the effort that some people have to put forth to get to church, I mean, just to get to church, and how much, I think that, to me, is persevering and wanting to. Any others? I'll bring up another name of a guy that passed away not too awful long ago, Gary Dupre. Gary would come in with oxygen on, and he'd make it right up there to the front of the altar and have to sit down and take a break to catch his breath before he came 3 or 4 pews back. That is a persevere. That is a decision. That is a determination that we all should try to emulate. Becca, Yes, yes, yes. Becca in Korea, yeah. So, like Korea's case, you don't have to be old to persevere, do you? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, mm-hmm, yeah. There is a lot to it. Yeah. And I thought, good, Gail. I thought about this here, this introduction that's in your quarterlies here, and thought about some of the gardeners in here, and as I read it, I understood what they were saying, but I'm not. I'll read it, and then you can decide. Perhaps you have planted some tomatoes in your garden, or you've planted 400 or 500 in your garden. You did the digging and preparation of the soil and planting. Would you believe not one plant had a single tomato on it after just 1 week? No blooms, no tomatoes. Now what? Now, as you read this, you might be thinking tomatoes take time to develop on a young plant. How foolish we are. There are many factors of climate, weather patterns, soil conditions that contribute to the development of tomatoes from the vines. And you are right, it takes time and the right factors to bring the desired results. However, it is no less foolish to want tomatoes off of young vines in a week than it is for those who profess Christ to think we can dictate. And I thought that was a great point. Think that we, you, me, us, can dictate to Christ when he ought to return. Or that someone may bring it about by their own will, because they have deciphered that what the scriptures teach. Can we have the audacity to say, Lord, you're going to do this, or you're going to do that. You're going to return now, or you're going to return in 2 weeks. Is that very wise even to think that way? I mean, when I read that, I thought, wow, are we really going to try to do that? Ooh, yeah, yeah. That's enough to make the tomato plant wilt up and die, so to speak. Mm-hmm. Yeah, 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 yeah. They have no understanding. Yeah, yeah, true. And what is it when you go into a store, if you don't have, if you're not able to raise them, or you don't go to somewhere else, or you don't have an understanding of what can going to a grocery store and picking up a tomato, how can that make you think? How can I ask this? Which is easier? I'll ask it this way. Which is easier, to raise a tomato plant and nurture it along, fertilize it, pull the weeds out around it, all that, we're walking into a grocery store and picking up a tomato and saying, all right, I'm ready to eat. Yeah, yeah. Well, that wasn't quite what I was thinking, but yeah. Yeah. But they're all the time. Hmm. Different countries. Yeah. Yeah. And so, yeah, if we take Al's thought on that a little bit further, it's so easy to think that we're in control. It's so easy to think, okay, God, now you're going to do this. Well, not so much. No. Instant. Microwaves. Yes. I've had a thought in my mind for years. We have microwaves. Every one of us probably has a microwave. And because it's quick and everything. And I won't go on with that. But I will. No. But you have a microwave. And I think just as fast as there's a microwave, and this has nothing to do with the lesson, when someone goes to the altar, I like to think of it as they are micro-saved. I mean, how long does it take to get saved? Quicker than 30 seconds to warm up a sandwich in a microwave or something. But that's just extra here today. Okay. We're talking about patience, but now we're going to get more and more into perseverance, which goes back to the song, I Have Decided. Those who look for Christ's return continue in faith with patience. Be patient then, brothers and sisters, until the Lord's coming. See how the farmer waits for the land to yield its valuable crop, patiently, waiting for the autumn and the spring rains. You too, be patient and stand firm, because the Lord's coming is near. Don't grumble against one another, brothers and sisters, or you will be judged, and the judge is standing at the door. Okay. Tells us to be patient. We was talking a little bit earlier. Nita and we was going around, and they said, which one was talking couples, and I didn't answer. I said, we're both patient. I said, who is more patient in that? And Bill, I think, stirred it and asked me, who's more patient, you or Nita? I said, well, actually, we're both more patient at times than others with each other. So, is that a good enough answer? Good. Whew. Well, glory. Yeah. She's being patient right now. We are in James chapter 5, verses 7 through 11. But it says to be patient. And then it tells us to stand firm. Then it tells us that we shouldn't grumble against one another. Do we ever gripe about anybody in the church or anybody in the family or anybody anywhere? We try not to, but how long does that last most of the time? Not long enough, huh? Yeah. This whole passage is contingent upon the truth of the Lord's return. And it's interesting when they wrote this, because the Lord's coming is near. All I can say is now it's nearer now than it was then. And said it was then, near. The early church believed that Christ would return in their generation, one generation removed from the ascension. And I didn't do a study, but how many generations have passed since Jesus ascended back up into heaven? That would be interesting. Gary, Google that up on your phone, Juan. It can be done. I'm just curious about that. They were serious about living in the readiness for this second coming, but James added another factor to the consideration. What if he delays his coming until a later date? They would have to be patient while they continued to carry out the commission. And the commission is, John Mills, what is God's great commission? Yeah. So even then, they were being charged with the Great Commission. James then gave us a picture of how a farmer waits for the land to develop a valuable crop, patiently waiting for the autumn and the spring rains. Early rains help it to germinate and take root. Later rains help the crop to mature and ripen for harvest. While that is happening, the farmer just sits back, props his feet up, and doesn't have anything else to do. That's not what it says here. Farmer weeds and nurtures and prepares to gather the resulting crop at the end of the growing season. The big farmers, they have their planting machines and they plant their tractors and planters and everything, and they go out and plant. So then what are they doing during the summer? They're working on their combines and their pickers and their everything to make sure when that time comes, they're ready to go. If you try to, again, farmers, how many have raised a garden? Somewhat. Okay. I'm not going to just pick on Al then. Mike, if you plant a garden, is there any way you can rush that garden along? A little extra water, maybe a little extra fertilizer. Bill, do you have any tricks to rush your garden along? None. Yeah. Do what? Yeah. Of course. Ma'am. Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah. And here I was about ready to commend you for working in the garden all the time. Yeah. Yeah, you got to keep the varmints out. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. We always have to wait for the crop to mature to the ripe stage, and then we pick it. So late June, July, somewhere in there, Alvin will be having some stuff, and maybe some of you guys, others will. My garden is not out yet, which is another thing. Another reminder in this expectation for the first century believers, but also an appropriate admonition to all believers. Don't grumble against one another, brothers and sisters. This isn't talking even about people outside the church. It's talking about among us. Grumbling against each other, judging others, seems to be an indicator of the level of impatience one demonstrates. If he or she is not engaged in the proper way to wait for the Lord's return. This is a direct reference to the teaching of Jesus along this line. And then the repeated reminder, the judge is standing at the door. Patience, and we've talked about perseverance, but never, patience is an especially virtuous quality in the life of a Christian. True believers are those who actively but patiently work till Jesus comes. I have decided to follow Jesus. In this manner, they are always preparing for the second coming. Sometimes they meet with opposition as they fulfill the calling of Christ, the calling Christ gave to them before he left. Now we're going to get into the more of the nitty gritty, as I would say, the heart of the lesson. James 5, verses 10 and 11, just 2 verses. Brothers and sisters, as an example of patience in the face of suffering, takes the prophets who spoke the name of the Lord. Take the prophets. As you know, we count as blessed those who have persevered. You have heard of Job's perseverance, and you have seen what the Lord finally brought about. The Lord is full of compassion and mercy. We talked about earlier about some people in our church that have been here and are still here that persevered. We talked about Gary Dupre. We talked about Bud Royal. We mentioned Charles Dunn, Kriya, Becca, and there may be others that you've thought of that have and or are persevering. John Mills perseveres. It's not easy for John to do what he does. But let's look at this a little bit more. First, we referred to the prophets who spoke the name of the Lord. They did so with patience in the face of suffering. One example to give. The teaching is that they proved themselves faithful to continue to proclaim the message of God, the message God had given them, even in the knowledge that it would put them in danger. This is how Christians are to contend for the faith. They must proclaim the gospel even if others reject them and the message they preach. Peter wrote, "But if you suffer for doing good and you endure it, it is commendable before God. Even in the face of persecution, the angry insults of society preach the gospel." All right. We talked about patience, and some people have more than others, and it's so easy to have patience, isn't it? Not always. Is it easy to continue on in the face of this world and be a light? Is it always easy to do that? That was a question that came to my mind when I was reading through this and studying it. Continue to proclaim the message that God had given, even with the knowledge that it would put them in danger. I think even more about our missionaries halfway around the world or down in the southern parts of the country, of our country even. How easy is it? Any ideas? Think it's easy? I doubt it. James' second reminder, though, was this: you have heard of Job's perseverance and have seen what the Lord finally brought about. How? And I didn't go back and check, but you that have been around the Bible, numerous people, friends, family, relatives, told Job to just basically curse God and die. Give up. Don't quit fighting this. Just go lay down. And but we also know then what the rest of the story was. How he was blessed after the fact. I believe it was everything that he lost was returned fivefold, I believe, is the scripture on that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Remember that in Job where one messenger after another messenger kept bringing bad news. They were having a party, and the winds came along and blew the corners out, and the house fell down and killed them all. His flocks all were killed or stolen. Yeah. The Lord is full of compassion and mercy, and God will honor any faithful servant who faces the persecution of human beings and the attack of Satan. and is still found true to their commitment to God. Couple questions here that I want to ask. Second question there in Explore 2 there. Besides maintaining our relationship with the Lord, how do we continue to prepare for his coming? Every day. How? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Being in church, turning others. Mary Ellen said, yeah. Any others? What else is important? What is one of the most enjoyable, encouraging things that happens in a church service? I'll say this, what is the most encouraging thing that we as a church can experience? Vicki? When someone gets saved, exactly. There's nothing more encouraging, nothing more uplifting to us than when someone else gets saved. When someone else goes and has that experience and begins the walk. And I'll just say, when someone gets saved, would you say that they're kind of like a little tiny tomato plant that they just put out? Yeah. And what do they need? They need care. They need nurturing. They need some fertilizer. They need some cultivation. They need those things. Yeah. All right. Third question there also I wanted to ask you. How are you developing patience in the face of suffering? Ma'am. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. The word is great. And there's a song Tribute Quartet has out, and I listen to it pretty regular. The healer hasn't lost his touch. If you haven't ever heard that, go look it up on YouTube or something. It is a tremendous song. Tremendous song. The healer has not lost his touch. And guess what? He hasn't. He really hasn't. God regards and rewards faithful patience and perseverance in all his people because God is gracious and loving. James turned to our witness in the world, and gave us a guideline for relating to those outside the faith. All right, the question I wanted to ask. Can you persevere, go through life, persevere without patience? Is it possible to persevere without patience? I don't think so. I think they're two peas in a pod, so to speak. But you can be patient in other areas, but the perseverance that we're talking about here may not be evident. Because we all know a lot of really nice people that treat people really well. They're really, if your grass needs cut, if you need a hole dug, if there's something that you need done, they'll do it. And they're patient with you, and they're kind to you, and they're nice. But are they in the realm of persevering, continuing, walking with God? Are they Christians? And I'm not asking you to judge. I'm just asking to, as they say, examine the fruit. Last concept here. Those who wait for Christ's coming confirm their faith by their lifestyle of propriety, not property. Notice how that is put together there. And we're just about out of time, but we'll finish up real quick here. James said all you need to say is a simple yes or no. Above all, my brothers and sisters, do not swear, not by heaven or by earth or by anything else. All you need to say is a simple yes or no. Otherwise, you will be condemned. An upstanding person does not need to add strength to what is being said by uttering an oath, because one's word is already enough to establish the fact. Christians ought to have such a name and reputation that their integrity is never called into question. They represent their risen, exalted Savior, and they walk in his image. Not perfect performance, but perfect in motive and love. They have a spirit to do what is right in the sight of God, approved by him and directed by his word. And they are not using the name of Christ to hide behind as they work their sinister schemes or take advantage in business or otherwise. Instead, they use their uprightness in business as a means of witness for the power of Christ in our lives. We are very near at the end here. Life application. How are you doing in growing patience into your life? Why not evaluate yourself? And this is, I'm not looking for answers. This is more of a rhetorical type question. Do you take matters into your own hands? Do you wait patiently or try to speed things up? Do you complain about others or to others about the situation? Do you ever question God on how long it's taking him to make things right? Remember a while ago, I think we talked about, one of you said about saying something to the effect that, God needs to apologize for that. Do you ever question God about how long he's going to, it's taking him to make things right? At what stage are you in the level of integrity? Now would be a good time to reflect and a good time to look inside and determine if your exterior is a good reflection of what God is doing for your inward person. In other words, building integrity. And the last line of this lesson here is, be patient. Christ will come again, and we have confidence in him to reward the faithful and judge the unrighteous. So, don't get too excited. Don't get bent out of shape. Don't get too anxious. Don't get too worked up. But persevere. And with your perseverance, may you have the patience to do that also. Any last comments? All right. Thank you all. And we're going to have church here in just a little bit.